Let's have a look at an interesting CAM application. Today we'll show how common fixtures can be added to EDGECAM's fixture database. Once in the database, these items can be rapidly placed into any CAM setup. Previous videos in this series have demonstrated how quickly the virtual CAM setup can be created. If you haven't seen those videos yet, definitely go back and have a look at them. I'll briefly recap the process for milling. First, the component to be machined is opened and then oriented to lay the way it needs to for the machining setup. Stock is added using model intelligence to assist with quickly placing suitable stock. Next, the datum is established, and then work holding can be added. This example adds a vise from the fixture database. Notice how easily the vise is placed into the CAM setup without requiring the extra effort to create a 3D CAD assembly. The last step is to place the setup in the CNC machine. EDGECAM post-processors provide both edit-free G-code and simulation based on CNC machine kinematics. We're now ready to create toolpath. EDGECAM technology makes this process very simple to do and very fast. Let's also have a look at turning setups for anyone that may not have watched the previous videos in this series yet. You may notice that the process described on the left is identical to the previous description of milling. That's not a mistake. The process of creating milling and turning setups is consistent, as you can see in this video. Once the part is oriented, stock is added. Next, work holding is added. Since this is a turning setup, we'll select a collet chuck from the fixture database. The database stores common work holding components used in milling and turning applications. This provides a consistent workflow that applies if you do milling or turning or both. And then finally, the setup is placed in the CNC machine. Now our focus today is to show how to add the common work holding fixtures your company uses to EDGECAM's fixture database. You're going to want to start with the EDGECAM launcher in order to add your common fixtures to the fixture database. So working from the launcher, we'll scroll down a little bit till we get to the applications area. We'll go to the tile for managers, the blue tile, and then choose fixture manager. The Fixture Manager is an app that deals with the common work holding fixtures that are in the database. I'm using EDGECAM's sample database today. Notice that there's several categories. There's chucks with jaws, where there's a variety of chucks with jaws added in here. We can see previews of those and the information in here. There are collet chucks as another category. Vices with a range of vices. You may see some vices that perhaps are similar to products your company uses. There may also be products your company doesn't use, and you could simply remove anything that isn't suitable to your company's fixture list. There are also custom fixtures. The sample database includes 2 top straps or clamps in there. So the first example we're going to show is adding a vise. Before I begin, I want to point out that there's the help question mark in the top, which provides excellent information for references about the information that needs to go into here to create these. The purpose of this demonstration is to show the overall process. So I'll begin with creating a vise. We'll choose the type of item I'm creating. And then, since this is going to be a CURT DX6 vise, that's what I want the name to be when I look at it in the list inside EDGECAM in the future. And then I'm going to need to plug in technical parameters. Now I want to mention something we noted earlier. It helps when you're putting this in to have the data from the manufacturer. And just to demonstrate that I've already collected that, I do have the technical information on the dimensions of the vise as well as the 3D models. If I look at those technical dimensions and just preview them really quick, notice the dimensions we have provided by the manufacturer, and they are in inch units. I'm going to be using these as a reference as we create the item. So then moving into the three main components here. One of those is the base, so we'll put in the length, the width, and the height of that base. Notice the units for this model are inches. The manufacturer provided inch units, and so I'm creating that as inch units. The fixtures that are used here can be used with setups that are inch setups and setups that are millimeter setups. So I'm simply using the units of the fixture, and then from there I'll be able to use them with any cam setup I need to. Now as we move down to the second item that's part of vise is the jaw. And in this case, this is a fixed jaw, so I've selected the fixed option. For self-centering jaws, we wouldn't check that. The length of that jaw, this is actually an equation using, again, dimensions that are provided by the manufacturer, then the height of the jaws, and then onto the sliding jaw in this case, which again is an equation, and then the height matches the other one. After pressing save, I can see that vise with its parametric graphics created using the dimensions here. I want to note that it's always important to start with parametric graphics, and in some cases those are going to be enough to describe the item for you. But it's also a good starting point even if you're using solid graphics. In this case, it helps me show you that the starting point or go position for solid graphics needs to look like the parametric graphic, where the jaws are completely closed in that closed position. So since I do have graphics for that, what I want to do here is continue on to show one of the workflows for how to prepare them for use in the Fixture Manager. Now there are several ways to do this. One of the ways is to bring them to EDGECAM, and if there's initial CAD work that needs to be done to prep them, then you can use whatever CAD system you prefer. But we also now have access to Designer, and Designer provides some additional workflows. Both of those workflows are things that we teach in our ToolStore database training course. So if you would like to learn more about that and many other aspects of the database, certainly watch for that course and sign up for it. We also can teach you these in one-on-one applications work if you need to, but hopefully this guidance is enough for some customers to be able to just dive in now that you've seen the process and kind of make it work on your own stuff. So I want to point out to begin with here that this fixture is in the go position. And so what that means is that the jaws are in the closed position as noted. And if I hide the display of the sliding jaw, we can see that the Z position points up to the spindle as it needs to. The Z0 is at the base of the top of the base, where if there were no parallels, the stock would sit. The 0 point for the Y-axis is against the fixed jaw, and the X position is in the middle of the jaw. Okay, so that's the go position. Now if we turn off the display of that, the manufacturer download, the solid we were provided with, is not in the orientation EDGECAM needs. While it's a great solid, and also the jaws are open. So Designer made it real fast to close that up, to reorient things and get it into this position. Regardless of whether you use Designer or some other CAD tool, this is the go position you need to be in. Now Designer also has ability to save the MEG file directly. The MEG file is what EDGECAM uses for a custom graphic. So we can directly save that out and create the graphic very easily. There is another workflow that goes to EDGECAM, as I mentioned. We won't cover it here just to keep this video brief and high level, but we do cover that during training. Let's return back to the fixture list, and I'll now add the custom graphics. So I'm going to browse for existing graphics that I already created using some of the methods that were quickly discussed there. So the base, the jaw, this will be the fixed jaw. You can be as creative with the names of those custom graphic files as you wish. And then the sliding jaw. And with those added, we now have a very accurate display of the vise where the digital model matches the physical item. This will be very useful for collision checking inside any EDGECAM part we use it in, and also for simulation predictions. Let's next go show a lathe example. So I'm going to put in a collet chuck. Begin with creating a new item. It'll be a collet chuck. The name of the product we're going to create. This is for an A26 spindle nose, common to a lot of machines in my machine shop. And then the key dimensions for this, again, using the data provided by the manufacturer. They provided inch units. You may notice that the information that I'm putting in here is a little bit different from vices, obviously because a collet chuck is different than that. So depending on the type of item you're plugging in, you'll have different values to use. Now while that technically is the values that EDGECAM needs to describe this, that isn't a really good representation of the item. So let's use a custom graphic, again, that I've already prepared using a similar process to what was quickly outlined earlier. That's a good, accurate representation of that part. I can save that, and I have two quick fixtures now added to my database that can be used with any CAM model that I wish. As these demonstrations showed, the common work holding fixtures your company uses should be added to Fixture Manager. This app is an integral part of EDGECAM's ToolStore database system. Once items are added to the database, they can be easily inserted into any CAM setup. Obviously, the Fixture Manager is not intended to handle the challenges of complex jigs and fixtures. But the reality is that EDGECAM already provides a simple workflow for these complex machining setups. But what about less complex machining setups? If the CAM user must create a 3D CAD assembly containing each item in the CAM setup, the process would be burdensome. For complex jigs and fixtures, there is often value in a 3D CAD assembly beyond simply preparing items for CAM. Because the upfront engineering work has a good payoff, users are willing to invest the additional time. But would we go through all that effort simply to add a vise or chuck to a setup? Probably not, unless it's very easy to create the machining assembly. EDGECAM's Fixture database makes it very easy to add these common work-holding items to the CAM setup. While EDGECAM does not actually require fixtures, there are so many benefits when they're included. Coupled with the reality that adding fixtures from the Fixture database to the CAM setup is so simple, there's no reason to skip work holding for today's EDGECAM user. HEXAGON technology and expertise is helping our customers improve manufacturing processes and improve product quality. We invite you to bring us your machining challenges.